Okay. Okay, let me talk about song publishing, the literal thing of it. The first song, I know I didn't write large enough, but the first song that popped into my head is Day Tripper. Most of you have heard of a band called the Beatles. Okay. Day Tripper was written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, right? It was originally published by Maclen Music. Well, actually, maybe it was MC Music, but anyway. That's the part of their first names, right? Okay. Now, we're using Day Tripper because it's the first thing that popped into my head, because I thought everyone would know the Beatles. I don't know what it is. How do I explain this? You can own what is known as 200% of a song, right? In other words, you can own 100% of a song twice. Many of you have heard stories of someone that wrote hit songs or was in a popular band and they sold their publishing and oh, they're destitute, they don't have any more money and all that. Well, usually what has happened, if I'll just jump into this, is they sold this, if you follow me. In other words, they were always Lennon and McCartney, and right now, I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now, Lennon and McCartney, or Lennon's estate and Mr. Sir Paul McCartney, they still get the money, even though Maclen Music was sold in 1969 to ATV, which is Sir Lou Grade's company, the showbiz impresario here in the UK. Now, Alan Klein sold it to ATV, and I don't know why the Fab Four thought that was a good idea. I have no idea why, but anyway, Maclen was sold to ATV. So except for the first 22 Beatles songs, all those Beatles songs were owned by somebody else. But I want to emphasize again, the money for being the author still came to these guys. What they no longer got was the publishing. If you follow me here, there are two different royalty checks that come to your house. Or now that they come through the electronic wire transfer. There are two different ones. They always got this money. But what they didn't get anymore, once they sold, I think it was 25 million pounds, which was a shit, if you allow me to be vulgar, it was a shitload of money in 1969. It would be a lot now. So, they still got the money as songwriters. Then ATV, of course, doing that, what was that song, Ebony and Ivory, the famous story during the sessions that Michael Jackson...
Paul McCartney.
Yeah, wasn't that where Michael Jackson told McCartney, I'm going to buy your songs, and McCartney thought he was joking? Wasn't that the session?
He told him to go ahead.
Yeah, he said, yeah, go ahead. And so he did. These songs, particularly something like the Beatles and Broadway show tunes, these songs, particularly in this information superhighway, they're never going to die. Barring, heaven forbid, World War III and a thermonuclear war, or the worst Great Depression of all time, these songs are never going to die. But what I want to emphasize to folks is when you hear this phrase, you own 200% of a song, what it means is someone out there owns 100% as the songwriter, and someone also owns 100% of the publishing. Okay? So most people, I say most, aren't so crazy or so destitute or so broke that they would sell both of these, right? There have been instances where that's happened. But here's, I think, the worst example I've ever heard of. Again, this is baby boomer stuff, and I apologize to some of the young people here. When I was a kid, there was a very popular song called Inagata Devita by a band called Iron Butterfly. That album sold 18 million copies. Doug Ingalls, the guy that wrote Inagata Devita. When I went to LA in '77 to quote-unquote make it in show business, I met Doug Ingalls. He had somehow either sold, lost, or maybe, I think actually he signed a publishing deal that was just piss poor in the early days. Anyway, Doug Ingalls didn't get any of his publishing on 18 million. Now it's my understanding, and I hope and pray he still got the songwriting part of it, if you follow me, which was enough to live on all that. But he didn't get that, which is just absolutely criminal. You can sign the worst ever deal if you want to, and Sir Paul McCartney and Lady Gaga. Who knows? This is something I want to emphasize. I think that's the clearest way to understand it. My friend Gene Clark was in a wonderful band called the Byrds. He foolishly, like a lot of people, as the 60s ended, thought, well, this kind of music's over, psychedelic music's here, now country rock's coming in, the whole, urban music thing's happening. He foolishly sold his publishing. And so he got money, but he got about half of what he should have gotten. And to make things even more confusing, you can sign a publishing deal with someone like, I have a song publishing company. And I've done, it's just my personal company now, and I've done deals when I was in the Long Rise with Blue Mountain, which is Chris Blackwell of Island Records music. I mean, if you'll allow me to say briefly, I had a chance to be the premier of the show business, and as Kim knows, it didn't happen. But I've had lawyers do major league song publishing deals with me, and you can sign with a major person, let's say Michael Jackson's publishing, and he'll give you maybe 10%, all of your song as an author, and maybe 10% of the publishing, and he keeps 90%. It doesn't have to be that you sold somebody 100%. In fact, if you wanted to, you could do a deal where you keep 50% of your song as the author, and 60.2% as the publisher. You can do any kind of deal you want to do. But I want to emphasize this over and over and over. There's two ways to own a song. Two ways. So when someone says they own 200% of the publishing, which is mathematically impossible, that's what the phrase means. That's what they're talking about. And there's all kinds of crazy deals that you can do that are under this umbrella. I was asked, can you do a deal for one song? I'm sure you could, but I've never heard of it. Right? I've never heard of it. The traditional thing in show business, I lived in Hollywood 15 years, and the drummer of the Long Riders, whom you'd never have guessed it, sorry Greg to say that, is now a huge publishing mogul at Warner Chappell. Warner Chappell are arguably North America's most important song publishing firm, period. He does deals where you walk in a room and he can get a check cut for you that day for about $500,000, right? He's in the major leagues. His job at Warner Chappell is finding new talent and getting those songs in Hollywood films and TV shows and stuff like that, right? So, I've never heard of him doing a song or anyone doing a song for one. The tradition is you give them either a tape of 4 songs, which usually is pretty well polished, pretty well done, right? Or there are instances where literally you just go in with electric keyboards or sit at the piano or a guitar and sing. Springsteen's early deal was done just literally by going into then CBS, now Sony Records, offices and sitting on a chair and playing music for John Hammond. And the great John Hammond, who signed Aretha, who was friends with Billie Holiday, or he signed Aretha to CBS, who's this? Dylan said right then and there, this guy's a star, and of course he was right. So there are both extremes. You could just take Bonnie's guitar and play some songs for some guy, and he'll sign you. But generally speaking, you have to have a pretty polished arrangement of the thing. Now, someone also asked me, broadly speaking, can you get the song across with just an acoustic guitar? And everyone in song publishing that I've ever met or talked to will say yes, and they're all lying through their teeth. They can't hear it. The idea, no, just give me an acoustic guitar or just a piano. That'll be enough. They're lying. They're lying. They're lying. You need to, if you want to come at this from a songwriting perspective, give them some idea of what the intro is and what the hook is and how it goes. They don't have it. And you've got to remember that a lot of these people sitting in these offices aren't musicians. I mean, everybody here that's writing, to some extent, automatically is a musician, is a lyricist, and is an artist.